Hello everybody, welcome back once again. Got another quick Clair Obscur Expedition 33 video for you here. So this time I'm going to be going over my picks for the good Pictos to be using during Act 1. So starting out, I definitely do recommend the Dodger, but really only if you're very new to the game and don't know or are not quite good at parrying yet. Dodger can be a very, very good and the safer way to avoid damage. Now, if you take a look at the Pictos, though, it says gain 1 AP on perfect dodge. Now, perfect dodges are essentially the same timing as the parry mechanic in the game. You're not always going to get that 1 AP, of course, if your timings aren't perfect on this. But again, for somebody that's newer and learning how to parry and dodge, I think that this is a very, very good Pictos. And of course is going to get you 1 AP here or there, again, depending on whether or not you time the dodges out actually perfectly. But also it does say there once per turn, which is why, of course, also parrying is always going to be a bit better. But again, for people that are newer or are struggling to get the timings down for parrying, I think that dodging is the way to go. And of course, here having the Dodger Pictos equipped is going to be a good idea. Also, they're only a 1 Lumina point cost for this thing, so extremely, extremely cheap, and I definitely think it's worth it. Next up is actually going to be Critical Burn. Critical Burn also, this is obtained in Spring Meadows. Essentially, Dodger is actually the first Pictos that you can get in the game. Critical Burn is probably going to be your second one. And I love this Pictos. I think that it's very useful, I would say, all the way up until Act 3. Act 3, it kind of falls off because a lot of your characters, it's fairly easy to get a 100% crit rate anyway. But again, up to that point, I think that Critical Burn can be very good. Usually at the end of Act 1 and kind of throughout Act 2, my characters have usually about a 75% crit rate. Of course, then, with Critical Burn equipped, as long as the enemy is burning, those characters will then, of course, have a 100% chance to crit. So, very, very good Pictos and one that I really like. Next up is actually going to be Augmented Attack. Now, this one's a pretty good one, but I would say it's a little bit more niche. Only because I would say, in this game, I do not use the basic attack command all that much. Mostly that's because I've played, by parrying for the majority of the game, and anytime that an enemy is attacking, my goal, of course, always is to be parrying, which is going to, of course, get the characters a bit more AP and also do those counterattacks. So that said, Augmented Attack, though, is good. I would say, at least I found the most use out of it in kind of like the more random encounters, so like anything that's not a boss, because of the way that I do those battles. That being, I use a lot of free aim shots. Basically use up a character's AP on free aim shots, and then, of course, once that character is out of AP, then I'll use the basic attack. And that's where, of course, Augmented Attack is going to come in handy to do a little bit of damage after those free aim shots. So again, good one for that. And also I should say that there are many Pictos related to the base attack. And so, with any time that, you're using Augmented Attack, of course, having those other Pictos equipped or Lumina abilities equipped is going to be helping out. So next one is going to be Burning Shots. And so, again, very similar to what I was talking about there with using free aim shots for kind of more like the random encounters. Burning Shots, of course, is going to work really well with that. It's got the 20% chance to burn on free aim shot. So a nice way to get actually that burn status on some enemies without maybe Lune having to use a wildfire or earlier on in the game. Which I forget, of course, her first fire attack. But anyways, same with Mael, right? Just kind of saving them a little bit of AP and, potentially getting that burn to just hit off of the free aim shot. So really like this one too. Next up, though, is going to be Dead Energy 2. This is also found in the Spring Meadows. This one is an absolute must and I love it from essentially the moment that you get it. So actually, it's I'm sorry, it's Dead Energy 2 that you get right away in Spring Meadows. Same thing though as Dead Energy 1, right? 3 AP on killing an enemy. Again, that's just so big for the the random, I call them, encounters, right? Anything that's not a boss, right? So you can blow all of your AP on free aim shots, follow up with that base attack. Now, hopefully, the nice thing, or what you really want to see happen with the Dead Energy, though, is you don't really want to do a full attack chain and then finish off the enemy with like that final attack, right? Like your basic attack. Because, of course, then that 3 AP is going to be stuck on that character and not be able to be used by that second character. So kind of one of the tricky things that you can do with Dead Energy is to actually get an enemy really down far to maybe within 1 hit range, right? And then just attack something else with the with your first character, right? So that when your second character's turn comes up, they can finish off the energy or the enemy that's low, get the extra 3 AP by killing that enemy, and then continue to use free aim shots, for instance. So that's kind of one neat thing that you can do with Dead Energy. That's a little bit a little bit more complicated maybe, but can really be a great way to make sure that you're wiping out a lot of the random enemies before they even get to act. So really, really like Dead Energy 1 and 2. Of course, Dead Energy 2 is available in Spring Meadows, though. Next up is going to be Empowering Attack. So Empowering Attack, very similar, and this is going to synergize well with like Augmented Attack. So it says, gain powerful for 1 turn on base attack. Honestly, the issue that I've got with this is more so that it's activating off of the base attack. That's not to say that it's not good, though. Of course, I wouldn't be recommending this if I didn't think so. But of course, as I was saying there, with a lot of the random encounters, I like to do the free aim shots and then finish an attack chain with base attack. And of course, that is going to get you the powerful ability. Now, the nice thing too about this is that your character will then have the powerful status for if that character does get attacked and you're able to counterattack, right? So huge damage increase if you're able to then parry, of course, while your character has that powerful buff up. Next up is going to be First Offensive. Now, I really like this one mostly on Lune, but that's not to say that this isn't good for anybody else. But typically, when I play, Lune is acting first, and what I usually do with her is build up a lot of these like First Offensive and Augmented First Strike, and do something like a Wildfire right away to get burn on everything. And also, of course, this is going to deal a bunch more damage. So it says first hit dealt and taken deals 50% more damage. So just a really nice increase on damage for someone like Lune. But again, not only good for her. It's just I think that she is going to benefit quite a bit from that. Next up is going to be Marking Shots. Marking Shots is great for if you're doing kind of more random encounters, not only good for that, but what I typically use it the most for is those random encounters where I'm burning a lot of free aim shots. So of course your 20% chance to apply Mark on a free aim shot, and this works really, really well with rewarding Mark. That'll be coming up here in a second, but the ability to apply Mark with your shots, which of course is then going to increase the damage for the next either free aim shot or base attack or ability that you use on that enemy is going to be very, very nice. So really like that one for early on. Exposing Attack is the next one that's pretty good. This is again more for, again, I would say, or what I used it for the most was, oops, I'm not at the right spot here. This is Exposing it. There we are. Exposing Attack. So good again for the when I do the free aim shot chains and then finish up with the base attack, right? Again, that's not the only time that this is useful. Of course, there are always going to be times, especially in like boss battles, where you run out of AP, you're not able to actually use any skills, and so you're kind of forced to use a basic attack. So this can be very, very good for that as well. Again, of course, there the base attack applying defenseless for 1 turn. That is going to be that enemy then is going to take 25% more damage. And of course, your other characters are going to benefit from this, as well as potentially any sort of counterattack that you're able to do within that 1 turn. So again, very, very good, and I think synergizes well with a lot of the other attack or base attack ones, right? So like augmented attack, empowering attack. All right, so that is exposing. Next up is going to be augmented aim. This is probably going to be a no-brainer, and again, very, very good for doing those free aim shots, right? So 50% increase free aim damage. That is very, very good, of course, and obviously going to be very, very nice for early on in the game when we're, doing a lot of, well, not just early on in the game, I shouldn't say, just going to be good throughout for doing, in my opinion, for the random encounters, or at least that is where I used free aim shots the most. Next one actually is staggering attack, though I didn't have this really listed for, one of my kind of top abilities. And mostly just because this one isn't, I feel like, good enough to merit the price. But staggering attack, of course, can work in combination with a lot of your other Pictos that are related to doing base attacks, right? So 50% increased break damage on base attack. That's nice, and I should say, maybe one reason to use this, aside from the effect is pretty decent, but also it's very, very cheap, of course. So only a 1 Lumina point cost investment here for this, so that's not bad. Rewarding mark, mentioned this one just a bit ago, of course, with I should say in combination with marking shots, right? That's where I find this one to be very, very good. You're going to be doing those free aim shot chains where you're just kind of blasting like crazy. Of course, every once in a while, mark is going to hit, and then when that does happen, your next free aim shot or basic attack will get you the +2 AP when dealing that damage to the mark target. Of course, this is only going to happen once per turn, but very, very, very good Pictos to be using in combination with marking shots. All right, so next up is going to be Augmented Counter 1. Really like this one, as well as actually, honestly, the other augmented attacks as well. Of course, doing 25% more increased counterattack damage. Counterattacks are already very, very strong, and you will find very early on that your counterattacks will hit the 9,999 damage cap that's essentially there for Act 1 and Act 2. So it can also get to a point, though, where you won't even need this anymore. So just, again, keep an eye on what your characters are dealing in terms of damage on those counterattacks, because, again, early on in the game, it actually is pretty easy to hit that damage cap. Especially, of course, as your weapons get a little bit better. I would say mid to the end of Act 1, you should be probably hitting that that damage cap with your counters. So just keep in mind that this is going to be outdated for a little while. Of course, once you are hitting that damage cap, there won't be any reason to have this equipped until Act 3 again, and that becomes relevant again, right? Because the damage cap, of course, gets lifted. Next up is going to be Versatile. I didn't use this as much, but it still is good for those random encounters. It says, after a free aim hit, base attack damage is increased by 50% for 1 turn. So again, this works really well with, or I should say, in my opinion, or in my experience, for any of those random encounters where we're doing a bunch of free aim shots and then finishing up with that base attack once we've run out of AP. So again, that's going to do a bit more damage for you, and of course is going to synergize very well with the rest of your free aim shot stuff, as well as the base attack bonuses to, the base attack Pictos, right? And then next up is going to be Energizing Break. I like this one a little bit, although I would say I put this one more towards the bottom of effectiveness. Mostly because I don't really find that things break that often in this game, just kind of in general. For random encounters, you're probably not going to be breaking anything. aside from some very specific ones, that are difficult. Like if you try to do the noir enemies while you are in Act 2, for instance, right? Because those have just so much health. It's very likely that you're going to break them once, possibly even multiple times in that battle. But also, maybe something, like a boss, that you're able to build up that break gauge a lot on. But that said, though, you're not going to get a whole lot out of this. At least in my experience, I don't remember breaking like a boss more than once or twice in most cases. Maybe for something like a mime, because they have such high defense, there's always a chance that you'll break more than once. But again, those battles are very few and far between. So I don't find this one that useful, but in very, very niche cases it can. Next up is going to be Last Stand Critical. There's a lot of basically duels where you have to, basically duel a gestural merchant in the game. And of course, all of the hidden gestural arena stuff, obviously those are all one-on-one battles. So I do find this to be very, very good. And for myself, I did a lot of, basically solo fights with the different characters throughout the course of the game. And so, of course, that's going to make sure that you've got a 100% crit chance. And at that point, of course, you don't have to worry about increasing your crit rates through your Pictos or anything like that. So again, this one can be very, very, very good. And one of the Pictos that I really like throughout the course of the game, again, especially for doing those like the duels versus the gestural merchants in the game. So again, very, very good for that. Similarly, the Empowering Last Stand is going to be another one that I really like, and for that exact reason. Let me see if I can find it though. Powering Last Stand, Powering Parry. There it is. Jeez, I'm freaking blind here. Losing my sight. Gain powerful if fighting alone. So again, really like this one, and for the same exact reason, right? As Last Stand Critical. Having the powerful status effect if you're fighting alone is just phenomenal, right? And it lasts the entire duration of the fight, right? So this isn't like, the battle starts and then you've got 3 rounds of powerful. It's just on you, right? The whole time. So very, very good for, again, especially those gestural kind of duels throughout the game. And then similarly is Solo Fighter. Let's go down to that. Oops. Oh, these are weird. These aren't really alphabetical if this is SO. That's so funny. Anyways, Solo Fighters here. Deal 50% more damage if fighting alone. Again, no-brainer for if you're doing any of those sort of gestural duels. Also, of course, if you enjoy doing challenges like I do and having your character solo stuff. So really, really like that one as well. All right, so next up is going to be a little bit more niche. But we're looking for Energizing Jump. I really like this one. Again, though, it's for specific battles, right? So it's +1 AP on jump counterattack. So jump counterattacks are just very, very easy to do in the game. Probably the easiest timing of all of the different, dodges and parries. So very, very easy to pull these off. And, of course, getting 1 extra AP there is going to be very, very good. Jump counterattacks actually can be a little bit annoying at times because you can just get so much more AP off of regular parries. But again, they are so much easier to do. So I definitely think that if you're fighting something that does have sort of jump counterattacks, then this is of course going to be worth using. Next up is going to be Energizing Start. So the first one that you can get is actually Energizing Start 2. This is the Ancient Sanctuary. 1 AP on Battle Start. Now, of course, there are 4 different ones in the game. I think that all of them are very good and all of them are very much worth using. Unfortunately, though, Energizing Start costs, 20 Lumina points, so, that's very, very expensive, of course, but by the time you actually do get Energizing Start 4, it's probably worth it to invest there. So really, really like this one. I think honestly in more useful doing in random encounters, just because you want to have as much AP as possible, right? Fire off more free aim shots and that sort of thing. But that said, though, it's not that it's that these are not useful for boss battles, because of course they still are. I just find them a little bit less important for those. And then next up is going to be Breaker. So Breaker's pretty good. I think this is just kind of a good generally useful, Lumina. I think mostly my issue though with Breaker and anything related to breaking is, and I had said this earlier, was that you just don't break things enough, I feel like, in this game. That's not to say that Breaker's still not good, because with just a 25% increase in your break damage across the board is going to be very, very good. But, again, like I said, most times I would say you're only going to be breaking, so like a boss, it's probably only going to happen once. So always a little questionable how good the breaker or breaking related Pictos really are in the game. But as far as these ones go, Breaker I do like, because it's just good across the board, and it's not as niche as some of the other stuff, right? Like energizing break. Once it does get broken, you get the 3 AP. Okay, great, but I just don't find that you break enough to make something like that useful. But it can be nice for Breaker, especially for like the mime battles, right? Because they have such high defense that you can't really do a whole lot of damage to them until they're broken. So something like this I do find to be very good, because of course we want to get them broken as quickly as possible. Next up is going to be Roulette. Roulette is a very interesting one. Love it and hate it, right? It can really kind of screw you over at times, but when it does work, it works fairly well. It says every hit has a 50% chance to deal either half damage or 3 times damage, essentially, right? So early game in Act 1, this is very, very good. Of course, though, once your characters are hitting, like, I forget what I calculated, probably right around, 3,300 damage, somewhere right around there, Roulette starts to kind of fall off. And very much so once you've hit like 5,000 damage, right? Because great, every once in a while you're going to hit, 50% of the time you're going to hit the damage cap, but also half of the time you're only going to do 2,500. So really anytime, actually, I think it's more above 5,000. Like once you notice your characters are hitting the 5,000 damage, then Roulette's just not worth using during Act 1 and 2. Of course, that changes again once you get to Act 3, because the damage cap is removed, and at that point, Roulette becomes relevant again. But again, there's just a spot there where Roulette doesn't actually do you any good and actually harms you. So a very interesting Pictos, but again, very good to be using early on. Next up is going to be Augmented First Strike. Actually, I already mentioned this one a little bit earlier when I talked about First Offensive, but Augmented First Strike can be very good as well. I tend to use this mostly on Lune, or I guess technically also a lot of times if I'm doing solo battles. But 50% increased damage on the first hit once per battle. If I'm fighting with 3 characters and I'm doing like a random encounter or something like that, I've got Lune essentially acting first all the time. And doing something like a Wildfire. So Wildfire, unfortunately, doesn't do that great of damage throughout the course of the game. But, of course, with Augmented First Strike and First Offensive, it actually is very, very good. And, of course, that's just so that I can get burn on all of the enemies. But do find this to be very, very good for her. Next up is Energizing Start 3. I actually already talked about the Energizing Starts, and they kind of just all fall into the same usefulness category for me. I really do like these. So Energizing Start, where are we at here? Energizing Start 2 is Ancient Sanctuary. Energizing 3 is in Esquia's Cave. And then Energizing Start 1 is outside the cave, basically immediately after. So kind of right after Esquia's Cave, you've got 3 of the 4, which again are very, very good, and I think these are definitely all worth using. Next up is going to be Death Bomb. So Death Bomb is a very, very interesting ability. I really didn't use this one that much just because I thought it was a little cheesy, but man, it's really, really good. especially, actually, I should say more so for random encounters. But it says, on death, deal damage to all enemies. That by itself isn't that impressive, but auto death in combination with death bomb really changes that calculation. So it says here, kill self on battle start. So basically, you combine auto death with death bomb. Of course, your character explodes, deals just a ton of damage to the enemies, and can do. I mean, it's a very, very good way to set up one of your characters. I didn't use it that much because I always felt like it was a little bit cheesy, but it is very, very effective. There actually are some other Pictos related to your character's deaths later on in the game as well. So it can make a really, really neat combo, and something I would say maybe one of the things that I would recommend doing with it is maybe there's a character that you don't like as much. You can have them set up with the death bomb and then swap them in for kind of like the random encounters, right? And then maybe swap that character back out for if you're going to be doing any sort of boss battles or anything that's going to take a long time, right? So because it's just not as effective, I would say, for those sorts of battles. But again, very, very neat, a little cheesy, but it is very, very effective. Next up is actually going to be teamwork. Teamwork is one of the better offensive-oriented Pictos in the game. It doesn't really do that much for you, but it does do a 10% increased damage while all allies are alive there, it says. So, as somebody who really enjoys the parrying in this game and avoiding damage, this is obviously going to get us the 10% increase in damage. So, again, very, very good and fairly cheap here with a 5 Lumina point cost. To be using that and getting that extra 10% damage. Next up is going to be breaking counter. So counters are always going to be a really good source of getting break damage, mostly just because counters do so much damage in the first place. And so breaking counter is just going to make that a little bit better. 50% increased break damage on a counter attack. So that's a pretty significant amount there and can really help you get things like mimes broken earlier. So definitely recommend using this, and again, especially for battles that you are used to doing, or things like mimes, right? Because mimes, nothing changes with their attacks the entire game. They always do that the 3-hit combo, and then they rotate that with their 4-hit combo. So always going to be something that's pretty easy for you to it gets easy to parry, right, with enough practice. And of course, this is going to really help you get those broken earlier. All right, next up is going to be First Strike. So First Strike is an interesting one. I'm recommending this one mostly when I think about Lune. First Strike, this Pictos itself actually doesn't do anything for you if you initiate the battle with the I play on an Xbox controller, so it's the R, the right bumper, right? Of course, that your character shoots something at something at the enemies, and that's what triggers the battle to start. So again, keep in mind that when you do that, First Strike doesn't do anything for you, because that is essentially you doing First Strike. So that said, though, this Pictos is useful for boss battles or anything where you're not actually initiating that combo, or where you're not initiating combat in that way. So just keep that in mind. But again, I really like it on Lune, mostly because I want to get things burning right away, and she's my girl for that. So that is essentially how I use First Strike. Next up is Perilous Parry. This is one of my favorite Pictos in the entire game. I love the parrying mechanic in this game, and it says here, +1 AP on parry, but damage is doubled. So if you are good enough, of course, in this game, you never have to take damage because you can parry everything. The issue, of course, there is if you don't parry, then you're taking double damage, right? And that can really, really hurt. So if you don't have the patience to learn the parry timings in this game, I would avoid this one, right? Go with maybe Dodger instead, and just get your damage avoidance that way. But again, as someone who absolutely loves the parry mechanic in this game, I really, really like Perilous Parry. Of course, also the stats on this are insane, very, very good. And throughout the game, Perilous Parry actually has pretty good stats because it continues to upgrade. So really, really like this Pictos. And then lastly, for Act 1 is actually At Death's Door. That said, though, At Death's Door, I don't really use a whole lot at the beginning of the game, especially not in Act 1. I think that I get the most use out of At Death's Door in Act 3, unfortunately. But it can be a good way for you to, sneak out some extra damage there. It says deal 50% more damage if health is below 10%. So someone like Verso in Act 2, or even Mael, and Mael can get, Last Chance, which puts her at 1 health. She can get that very, very early on in the game, so she can essentially activate Death's Door very, very easily. And so I think she can be very, very good with this. But I think At Death's Door would work really well with your Death Bomb combo as well. Of course, we after battle, if your character was dead, they will basically be alive at 1 HP, which of course then is going to get you the extra 50% damage. So again, a very, very good use for that, I would say, early on is going to be in your Death Bomb combo, whereas towards the middle or Act 2 to Act mostly during Act 2, I wouldn't find At Death's Door as useful, mostly because it's just so easy to hit the damage cap in Act 2, but of course it becomes relevant again then in Act 3. So that is my take, or those are my picks for the best Pictos for Act 1. As always, I hope the guide was helpful, and thanks for watching.